Hello everybody, welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today we're doing government and social news, and some of you may have noticed Ryan has returned.
Still in pain.
Is it really?
Is it healing at least?
I think so.
Well, that's good. You know, if you get into like artificial disc territory, that's not a fun surgery.
Oh, believe me. I'm reading a lot about it. The apparently if it's a pulled or strained muscle, it's up to 3 weeks. So I'm going to give myself up to 3 weeks before I start considering suicide.
I heard you kind of like huffing and puffing up the stairs, and I was like, oh, he must still be hurting.
The stairs, actually, but I did the stairs twice on Wednesday, and they were way worse than they were today. So, you know, silver linings, right? But there are no silver linings for this man, because he did a very stupid thing. He marketed phones to people that he knew were criminals, and he marketed them in a way that was explicitly for crime. And you can't do that, especially when the FBI is already monitoring.
The U.S. has extradited a man who allegedly sold backdoored phones for the FBI. He is one of 16. Remember the Anom phones that the FBI had taken over? Well, they got him.
Oops.
And not only did they get him, they got almost everybody he sold a phone to because they were already in.
Yeah. Yep. And this is actually not the first story that we're going to find like this. At this point, it has eroded to the point that it's actually a little bit scary. There was the guy in Florida that was doing the classes on how much of a scam polygraph or lie detector tests are. And they got him on federal charges. He was found guilty, which is ridiculous.
The polygraph has no science behind it, but they protect it desperately because it's such a great tool.
Yeah,
it's like the drug dog.
Yeah, a rando showed up in this guy's class, and he was like, I'm going to use this for criminal purposes. And it's like, you moron, don't say that. And that was still enough to, have the guy arrested and found guilty, which is ridiculous.
No, well, listen. It's always the gun's fault, right? That SUV ran over those people.
That's not even a gun. It's just an imaginary. It's like your imaginary placebo device.
It's much more dangerous.
Stop pointing out the free energy device doesn't work.
An idea is much more. The pen and the sword, right? That's the true thing they fear.
Listen, it's illegal to point out that the free energy device doesn't work. Just saying.
Well, another thing that might be in the same realm of the free energy device, and that it's not real, is cryptocurrency, right? And, people are going to argue that our regular currency isn't that much more real, but the people who are in charge of that are suddenly taking interest in cryptocurrency because they can't stop it. What can they do?
The Payments Journal, this a
paywall alternative? Yeah.
Attention in Washington shifts from crypto writ large to stablecoins. So this is not a good headline. This is a smokescreen, basically. Washington is looking at stablecoins and trying to regulate them like as if they are banks to make them follow the rules of the bank. Do we have the Peter Thiel story, or is that coming in business? There's a related story to this with business because some billionaires that are in the crypto bro.
You mean where he spoke at the conference?
Yeah.
It's probably it's probably business.
So we got the competing factions of billionaires, which is always fun to watch. Like, we can always watch from the outside.
Is it fun to watch that, though, as a poor?
Yeah, no, I mean, it kind of is.
In this case, yeah.
But here is let me just give you a reset for your mental process to look at this and process it for what it is. Look at PayPal. What rules does PayPal have to follow? And if the crypto stuff that they're proposing is more rules than PayPal, it's really about the good old boys network and not actually about protecting idiots from doing bad things with crypto.
Yeah, but, when you bring it into the stablecoin realm, that argument makes sense. But as long as they move in value versus the dollar, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, as long as they move in value versus the dollar. But you got all the pump and dump schemes and everything else. And again, PayPal can just take your money and there's nothing you can do because they're not regulated.
Yeah.
As they have.
I think, but PayPal ultimately must denominate back to a regular currency.
Yeah, they don't. Yes, they take your money in a different way. I would concede that.
But I'm saying it's not a threat that PayPal pushes out the dollar because PayPal is the dollar.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, they don't say that that's why they're doing that. They say that they're trying to protect people.
That's the real reason.
Yeah. Maybe maybe in our position as, and I'm not even saying we're, like smart or anything. It's just that we read all of these week after week after week and we talk about them. At this point, that statement, you would have to be, like your brain would have to be shutting down right now.
So smooth.
For you to even present that.
Yeah.
And we know that AI is a big part of all this new technology capture of our minds and our worlds. And AI is running everything now, but it's not always great, and sometimes maybe it's discriminatory.
California suggests taking aim at AI-powered hiring software, automated HR, and the crosshairs over discrimination law. It's the thing we've all experienced where you go to the website and you fill out the form, and that's your
Please
resume.
upload your resume.
And then you upload your resume, and it's just like, I want to die.
What a waste of time.
This is a symptom of a different problem. We're all building these sort of Kafka-esque jails for ourselves, and it is pervasive at every level of life, not just the job application process. So, California, if you're going to do this, go all the way.
Now, the argument here is they're saying that, yes, we do have to exclude all of the things that are illegal from our hiring stuff for the AI. For example, gender, race, religion, and so forth. But because big data is so powerful and because these data sets are so rich, they've actually figured out ways to sort of extrapolate those values from other values. And it's pretty effective. So California's saying, hey, we know that you can't click the Hispanic box, but we know that you can figure out that. And you can filter if you want to.
It's even more insidious than that. There was the software engineer guy who was legit good at his job, and he had some, crazy, super long name. Crazy doesn't imply anything there. And he changed the name on the resume to John Smith, and immediately he was getting callbacks and everything else. And he's like, literally, that's the only change that I made on my resume.
That happens too, where they'll submit a resume that's exactly the same for a man and a woman, and the man always gets the callback, but the woman doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What if AI hiring ends up having the same effect on surnames as like the name from the big war did? They won't hire me as a Gonzalez.
I have to change it.
Yeah, the Gonzalez name has to die, I guess. And we have the big Google case going on, and we learned a couple of weeks ago that Google has this crazy practice where they CC lawyers on every single email because that's attorney-client privilege. But because they do it on every single email in the discovery, some people are raising their eyebrows.
U.S. judge in Google case asks for more information on attorney-client privilege. So, that got the attention of the judge. The judge was basically saying, do what now?
He had a quote in here, and you could tell that he did not buy. Oh, yeah, it's, upon completing its review. So he's basically saying, yeah, I want to see it all. 21,000 emails.
Yeah.
Well, those lawyers were busy. So that'd be nice. Maybe we'll get to see those emails. And maybe that'll stop that from happening.
No, it
in
won't
the
stop
industry.
that. Ultimately, they'll create a tar pit here where it's just impossible for anybody to spend the time necessary to go through that and figure it out.
But there will always be some dedicated people who were like, yes, I love this. Let me look at it.
Unless there's some judge that has a chip on their shoulder to do that, they're not going to care.
We need judges who care. How do we get that?
You have to be a lot of changes.
Now, if you are a judge who cares or a politician who cares, you are going to be in the minority.
You're also going to be targeted.
So in the minority. And because of that,
EU officials targeted with Pegasus spyware. This article is not freaking out. There's not enough exclamation points and all caps lines in this.
blink tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
is what Blink was invented for, and now it's not available.
There is no excuse for this. If NSO Group is participating in the roundtable of first world nations in commerce, this should not be a thing.
How do they know they're being spied on? Well, Apple, amazingly enough, because Apple sent everybody a text that said, hey, we have reason to believe that you're being monitored by spyware. And then they looked into it. Sure enough.
We figured out that we don't know how to do security. And when we looked into it and peeled back that curtain, oh boy, it was real bad.
Now, NSO Group has assured us over and over and over. In fact, we'll have stories where they say that exact same thing over and over again. They don't sell this to bad people. So who did it?
Huh.
Oh man, if only we could sideload things that could audit stuff.
Literal terrorism. And we have the old EU antitrust cases. There's just week after week, it just keeps happening.
Apple faces further charges in EU antitrust case triggered by Spotify. Apple will face additional antitrust charge. Okay, so Spotify, turns out, can stream music sometimes when Apple permits it and is okay with it, and do stuff with music, which Apple also does stuff with music. But Apple wants you to have a better experience with the Apple ecosystem and buying music there, not this Spotify swill.
Yeah, why would anybody use anything but Apple Music? It just works.
Except when it doesn't.
Do you guys remember a long, long time ago when the only thing in the news was Ukraine?
Wait.
That's still pretty common.
Still pretty common.
I know.
Yeah.
I said it's really fallen off in my news feeds.
It's interesting. They just succeeded in taking out the flagship
Ship.
Black Sea ship.
I can't remember. It starts with an M. I don't know how to pronounce
It's the
it.
Moscow, but it's in a...
That's the second time during this war they've hit a ship just firing rockets off the coast. I mean, that seems like the silliest thing in the world.
Yeah, they were like, this ship should not have been anchored this close to the
Yeah.
shore, and yet it was.
It almost didn't sink, but it finally did.
God, imagine how bad that is for the environment. That's the real environmental terrorism.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing a different news feed than you guys are. But like, I was consuming a lot of Ukraine stuff, and even my YouTube feed, it's tapering.
I mean, some of the quips are just amazing. It's like, finally, they take the battle to the real enemy, Aquaman.
He would be very angry about that. But Ukraine has, they have obvious problems, but they have some problems that are not so obvious, like the loss of their world and culture and everything. I mean, when things get bombed, they're just gone. So what do you do?
Meet the 1,300 librarians that are trying to back up Ukraine's digital archives. Well, not just back it up, but also capture historical text and capture artifacts and do 3D scans and that sort of thing, because when things are destroyed, they are very thoroughly destroyed.
So they use an
Very
example. There's an example in here. Some kind of obscure. Everybody uses the continue reading button now. It was like a Ukrainian general or something like that, or somebody, a poet. And this is probably something that is not documented in very many places.
Yeah.
And almost all of them are probably in Ukraine.
It's funny because a lot of the places in Ukraine actually predate a lot of the settlements in modern day Russia. Like Moscow is not anywhere near as old as Kiev.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just kept redrawing those lines.
Yeah.
It's still the same place, which is kind of Putin's argument. I don't agree with it, but that's his argument. Yes, our NSO Group story. And so this one makes a lot more sense after we saw the other one, because those EU leaders are probably not going to stay silent about this. And there's probably going to be a real bad time over at NSO unless...
Israel's NSO Group appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court for immunity in WhatsApp suit. Basically, they're looking to be declared a wing of an international government and therefore immune to any kind of federal lawsuits, even though their product has been deployed against U.S. citizens.
And international governments.
Huh. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Would you ever, I mean, let's say that you're the U.S. and you want to get in bed with that. Could you ever trust it?
No.
I don't think so.
It means you could never really even trust an iPhone, which is crazy because with just a little bit more work, an iPhone could actually be a reasonable trust platform. But you have the insanity of Apple and their insane control, which is like, the Empire in Star Wars. It's like the tighter they squeeze, the more cracks are going to be in their cryptographic armor and things will slip through. And, it's bad because the NSO Group stuff will be much more pervasive because people don't have the tools to even be able to have a security product or do the kind of auditing they need to see if the binaries that they're running are what they intended. So,
it's funny. We have such massive investment going into the, intrusion side of the equation.
Yeah.
And very little on the defense side of the equation.
Yeah, it really is completely stupid.
It's almost like everybody who matters actually wants the spying to occur.
Yeah, that's a border gateway protocol, being as horribly insecure as it is by design, has been kind of convenient for our intelligence service for a long time. They're like, nah, we don't really need to fix this completely. It's sort of handy.
Well, we have a lot of pity when it comes to Ukraine. They're getting the bad side of everything, but they're not the only ones having some issues in this conflict. Russia is also having some problems putting together supplies.
Russia cobbles together a supercomputing platform to wean off foreign suppliers. I read this. It's basically propaganda. They're trying to bring their Elberus system back from mothballs and make a system that can, sort of deal with a whole bunch of other different things. But
there was a quote at the end where some people actually tried to use it, and they're like, yeah, we can't even run the network equipment on this.
Yeah.
It's too trash.
Yeah. How cool is it going to be? I hope we're still alive in 20 or 30 years when the declassification thing happens. And it turns out that there was a CIA operation to buy old Russian tank parts on eBay. So they didn't do anything other than create a market for critical components for all. Like, that's the explanation for how badly things have how badly Russia has executed is literally that somebody in the CIA was buying on eBay and other third-party marketplaces the critical components for that stuff. So when you show up at a tank and it's like, why is half the engine missing, or why is the electronics missing? It's because the CIA was
been buying those pieces away, and it's so corrupt you can do that.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, Dimitri, listen, there's a market for this. Sell it on eBay, and it's like nobody will ever notice. And it's like, okay, that sounds good. Turns out it was CIA.
We'll never use this stuff anyway.
Turns out it was a CIA op the whole time.
But if they admit that, they would have to admit that they knew it was coming and did nothing.
Oh, they've already. Today's Friday. Today's Good Friday. When we're recording this, they've already threatened that we're going to have to get in a conflict with NATO, or Russia has. So, who knows what fresh hell will be out on Tuesday when this comes out.
Well, yeah, because all those border countries are suddenly jumping into their arms. It's going to get interesting.
I also think it's a different situation if we entice people to, steal from their employer and sell it on eBay versus, directly intervening. But,
I don't think Putin sees it that way. I think that's what matters. Well, El Salvador, boy, they had some good press there for a little while. He was the Bitcoin guy, the Bitcoin leader. He was the Bitcoin bro president, and everybody was excited about it. And maybe that was a little bit of a veneer.
Maybe premature to celebrate that.
Yeah, it might have been painted over some ugly wallpaper that was already there.
In response to killings, El Salvador's Bitcoin president attacked civil liberties. So they rounded up 6,000 people completely indiscriminately, and they have no clothes. And
that was part of it.
Yeah, and that's not a good look.
Now, I do have to take the same approach here as I took when I looked at the migrants getting off those buses. Like, I understand that some innocent people are going to get caught up in this. A lot of neck tattoos. And I judge that. Sorry. That makes me think you might be a member of another group. China, meanwhile, not getting a lot of headlines because of everything else, but they are cracking down in a big way on their tech sector. And they're really, other than locking people in their homes, they're locking down their entertainment.
Tencent shuts down its rival to Amazon's Twitch as China crackdown on tech continues. They couldn't find a technological solution to prevent you from watching a stream of a girl eating a banana, so they just turned it off.
Because God knows what that's going to lead to.
It's funny. It's because that's the thing that actually happened.
Now, that one, what was the name of the Tencent's one? It's not the big one. Penguin Esports. Yeah, so they actually have, they compare this to Twitch. This is not in comparison to Twitch. This is like comparison to YouTube gaming.
Yeah.
So, not that big a deal.
The Penguin gaming is to Twitch as YouTube gaming is to Twitch. Yes.
I don't think there's a competitor for Twitch yet. Not really.
No, it's just the inertia.
Yeah.
It's all the inertia.
Well, they got that Amazon money behind them, too.
Even before the Amazon money, who would have taken them on?
You know who's the dark horse that's going to have a streaming platform that's just going to surprise us all? Disney. I was the Called Penguin story, spoiler alert, that we'll get to. Like, if you go down that rabbit hole and the moves that Disney has been making quietly, it's dark. It's really dark.
They want to own every piece of media and tell every story.
Yeah, they're coming. They're coming for...
There will be no stories outside of the Disney culture.
Disney knows they're not going to pry Twitch from Amazon, but they're coming.
But you guys are criticizing Disney, and I don't know, maybe you guys don't know this, but they're the defender of LGBTQ. That makes them immune to your criticism. They were very clear about that with their press releases.
There's an asterisk, though, where it's like defender of LGBT, but only in the United States, not in China or any other market where it might cost them money.
Also, they really needed to support some politicians in Florida that may have not have been aligned with that policy.
Oh, they went against him.
Did they?
Eventually. After giving him
the
a
air
lot of
did,
money.
yeah.
Was like, shame on you. Don't make us give you this station wagon of cash. Oh, a second station wagon of cash. You're a terrible person. Here, I have another station wagon of cash.
I didn't realize there was still an heir to the Disney, like an actual, like, person.
Yeah, they don't run things, but
yeah,
I'm sure
they
have,
exist. Yeah,
I'm sure they have a lot of Class A shares
yeah.
that they get to vote with. Well, we thought that maybe, just maybe, very slowly, we were starting to crawl out of the pit of the chip supply problem, but not so fast.
iPhone supplier Pegatron suspends production at 2 factories in China. This is not because of the global economic situation. This is because of the global human malware situation.
You guys watch that video of the
Yes.
screens?
Oh
from the
my
buildings?
gosh, yeah.
Oh,
Very
that's
depressing.
haunting.
Also, the drone that was flying around saying, control your soul's desire for freedom.
Yeah.
Well, that's just... I know we say it all the time, but what could be more dystopian than that?
It's not. Someone posted on boring dystopia, and I was like, that's not even boring anymore, is it?
Oh,
That's just
yeah.
straight out of like Blade Runner.
This is white hot dystopia.
Yeah.
Fresh. And the old sanction question, if you're wondering like, I bet I could make a lot of money in Russia, but will anybody take it seriously if I go over there? Yes. Yes, they will take it very
Spoiler.
seriously.
Ethereum dev imprisoned for helping North Korea evade sanctions. So there's an Ethereum dev, and he had a conference. He did not get permission from the State Department to go to North Korea.
Which is ridiculous that you have to have that.
That's a bit of a faux pas. But then saying, here's how you evade U.S. sanctions, turns out the State Department has a problem with that. Listen, the State Department will call you if you get ransomware and the ransomware group is operating out of Iran and you send them money through Coinbase, the State Department will call you and be like, what did you do?
Yes, that's right. You literally have to have a license to visit North Korea. And you know what else you have to have a license for? Having opinions on the Australian stock market.
Finfluencers, quote unquote, could face up to 5 years in prison if they provide financial advice without a license, the Australian government says. Interesting. Does Australia not have a student loan crisis? Were those students consulted on the lifetime financial commitment they were making when they took out their student loans?
What if I said, people of Australia, in 2022, student loans are a scam. Don't take them. That's financial advice. Hey,
Do you have a license to give that?
I don't. I'm freewheeling here. I'm off the grid. Hey, listen, don't invest in the stock market if you owe a mortgage. The percentage on your credit card bills and your mortgage are probably more than you'll make on the stock market unless you're really good. Just pay your debt. Oh, no, financial advice.
Also, I saw the term Finfluencer earlier this week, and I assumed it meant influencers from Finland, but tragically it only means financial influencer.
What if it was influencers with genetic defects that caused them to have webbed feet?
Oh. That would also be weirdly specific. You probably have to have a license for both.
Or like
You have an unlicensed genetic anomaly.
mer people.
Gattaca every day.
I'm trying to think of mer people from fiction. They could be influencers.
Ariel.
It is a war on Aquaman.
Ariel, yeah.
Yeah.
Did Ariel end up with fins or feet at the end? I don't remember.
She had feet. She changed everything about herself to be with Prince Eric.
God, that was a terrible story, wasn't
It
it?
is, yeah, when you kind of take it apart a little bit.
So she can't be a influencer.
No, not anymore.
Well, it's in this country, we have inflation. And they print this official inflation number. And what are we at? Like 6, 7 now?
8.
It's so-
8.5, I think.
It's so extreme that we sound like we're on helium.
Well, that 8, I mean, under 10 is actually not nearly as bad, but that's not real. That's not the reality. Oh, but wait. I can't tell you the real number, at least not in Turkey.
Turkey considers prison terms for anyone publishing unapproved economic data.
Do you know how much our government would love this?
A lot. They would love this a lot. I'm pretty sure they're going to do this anyway. Like, they'll find other things that you did that they don't like. See also, all the crap that the guys on Wall Street Bets have to go through. It's like, we go on CNN. Let me accidentally trick you into saying something that you're not allowed to say because we have similar rules about not saying certain financial things, especially when you're a stockholder. It's actually a trick to get you to say something that you can then be brought up on criminal charges for.
Or they could just use their hold on our entire structure of communication to delete what you say whenever you say something they don't agree with, which is a lot of that is going on. And man, as much as I hate to admit it, one man is standing against it, and for one of the very few times I agree with him.
In major reversal, Elon Musk is not joining Twitter's board. And you know why?
We've been screwed by Elon Musk every week with him changing his mind back and forth.
He's not joining the board because he's trying to buy it. Woo!
He made the offer very quickly. The offer was rejected. Oh, well, then we found out the board was definitely not, they were not welcoming.
They were not welcoming to the advance. But they haven't, as of the time that we're shooting this, they haven't exactly announced the strategy with which they'll use to reject it, because he is offering a price that's significantly beyond the stock price.
No, the Saudis have a 5% stake, so they have enough to veto it, and they did.
Nice. Although I think
the Saudis on Twitter.
I want to say that Vanguard that's we're not talking about the same thing, are we? The Vanguard Retirement Fund, they upped their stake in Twitter also to try to get a say in this.
You're talking about other activist investors
yeah.
who are the pro-censorship activist investors versus Musk, who's the anti-censorship activist.
Let's not forget.
I don't know that he's anti-censorship so much as like he doesn't want his stuff censored. Like I think he would happily censor stuff making fun of him.
Yeah, he would for sure. Well, it was funny that remember the kid who tweets his airplane? He just tweeted, "Oh no." So that'll be the first big test, right?
Yeah.
That one seems too obvious. Yeah. You think he would really shut that down? You think so?
He is so vindictive. There was a blogger that complained about I think it was the Cybertruck launch event was kind of chaotic, like getting them in and getting them seated and like how stuff was going. And there was a throwaway line that he tweeted or something that was like, man, this event is really disorganized. They should have done a little bit better job planning this. Dude Musk canceled that blogger's pre-order.
Wow. Look, not only did he like take the time to figure out who that guy was, he went through and found his order.
Yeah.
I love when sycophants see the real face. I love that moment. I'm like,
that definitely happened.
But I'm with you. I'm one of you.
I was just saying, I thought the event could have gone better. Deleted.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say he's fully anti-censorship. He just doesn't want certain types of censorship against himself.
He fired the guy that posted the video to YouTube. We have the story about the $15 million settlement for the guy that endured racist slurs that we talked about a couple of years ago.
Oh, the short sellers. His campaign against the short sellers has been astonishing. And he's used the state in a lot of those cases.
Yeah, but there's been rapid fire stories about him all week with this Twitter drama.
He doesn't forget.
Well, we've got a few more, Krista.
Yeah.
Because, of course, everybody is trying to get his opinion about all this. What are you trying to do? Is this really about free speech?
Buying Twitter is not a way to make money, says Musk in TED interview. But he's created a situation where even if he doesn't acquire controlling interest in Twitter, his stocks are going to go up dramatically in value.
Would you call Elon a Finfluencer?
He is.
He needs a license in Australia.
The number one fan. I don't know. Maybe Buffett is more than him. Although, does Buffett tweet?
No.
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
He's old. I guess so is Elon. Elon's in his 50s, right?
Well, there's a big gap between them. Buffett's basically a corpse.
Buffett's like 200 at this point.
So the problem that Twitter faces at this point is that they are a publicly traded company, which means anybody can buy their shares. And as we know, Elon Musk has a lot of money, enough to just keep buying shares and keep getting more and more votes. So what do you do?
Twitter's board is reportedly considering a poison pill, quote-unquote, defense to prevent Elon Musk from buying the company. What this is, if you're not familiar, is you issue more shares. Or you issue more shares and then create a situation where the board votes on who's eligible to buy those, maybe even at a discount.
In other words, you blowtorch your existing shareholders to try and maintain your control of speech.
Woo!
Do you want to own that stock?
No.
There is another possibility that there's such a thing when you own those shares. You can proxy your vote. So everybody could buy one share of Twitter and proxy Elon Musk if they wanted to. He'd run it.
You think that he's maneuvering to do that to get Reddit, get the Wall Street bets guys to just everybody will buy one share of Twitter.
I could totally see him doing that.
Yeah. Which how is the Trade Commission not been all over his ass for this?
Well, they hate him. That's
yeah,
like one of the most bitter.
But it seems like he's kind of a little manipulating the price with all of his nonsense with this. And
they would have to go back and put everybody in jail.
Yeah,
because this is such a common thing.
How has it not occurred to him to buy a Robinhood or to buy or build a Robinhood competitor? Because that would be the ultimate way to screw the SEC.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
it kills two birds from one stone because he gets the internal data and he's able to expose the corruption that way, and he keeps them busy with that, so they'll leave him alone.
But you got to have a clearinghouse, and you got to have all this infrastructure, and every portion of that could just say no to him, and that would end it.
I'm pretty sure that the money that he's pissed away, though, could make a lot of those barriers go away.
Maybe. But also, I don't think he cares as much about that as he does about this.
Yeah, about trying to... It's not about the money, it's about the influence. That's what he wants. The Finfluence.
Now, someone else who is in a similar situation to Mr. Musk, but maybe it is about the money for this man.
Yeah.
Because it seems like every decision he makes is all about the money, and he has gambled big on the latest one.
Mark Zuckerberg's augmented reality. Meta is facing its first AR glasses release in 2024, but sources believe it'll take a lot longer for them to become mainstream. So, if you didn't see the video of this, it was around Christmas time, wasn't it? He was doing fencing, but it was like augmented reality fencing, but it's not. It's like, this is obviously just Hollywood nonsense, but they're trying to say this is how it's really going to be, but there's no way that this is how it's really going to be.
Oh, that's so dark.
A first-gen product.
This image. It's like I think what makes that sort of weird looking is that it's two old men, so it sort of implies that one has died.
Recently?
It's literally the force projection ghost. You're playing chess with the force projection ghost of your grandpa.
Now, they were interviewing some, I think a former Microsoft guy who has dealt with building these kinds of glasses before. His quote was, "Not encouraging."
You have to be really a missionary to see this through. Someone who's been involved with Nazar says it will take decades.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Because if you look at our current... Remember the AR demo we saw where they was throwing rocks?
Yeah.
Compared to this?
Yeah.
I mean, that looked like CGA graphics, those rocks. Yeah. It was terrible. And the Metaverse... Now, here's the weird thing about the Metaverse... Accidental preview. The weird thing about the Metaverse is that Meta has the Metaverse, but then the word Metaverse also just talks about like the category of thing. Yep. So other people are building their Metaverses. That's going to be a rat's nest, isn't it?
Yep.
But the real Metaverse, I don't know if we call it the real one, the first one, the Metaverse, has...
Sucks Meta.
They've made an announcement about their pricing policy.
Meta plans to take nearly 50% of creators' earnings in Horizon Worlds.
And it's dead.
So it's 30% commission for the platform and the software. Think like the Metaverse App Store. And then 17.5% hardware fee?
I think it's the other way around, right?
No, I think it's
like... I should say.
30%... for selling the apps through the VR platform, and 25%
on top of the remaining amount.
But one of them, you got it right. One of them's for Meta, and one of them's for Horizon Worlds. Is that how you understood it?
I thought it was like if you're using the Meta hardware for the thing, which you have to use.
In any case, it's 50%.
Yeah.
It's essentially 50%. And
this again seems to me like, you buy your Microsoft IntelliMouse Explorer, and anything that you use. Anything that you create with that mouse is now property of Microsoft, a certain percentage.
Did you just transfer some money on your bank account?
Using your Microsoft IntelliMouse, and it's like, yes.
Now, Krista, you say this is dead, but they point out that Roblox has almost the exact same policies.
That's also for literal children.
Oh, well.
I guess, yeah, maybe they're hoping to get... And I guess they are kind of angling to get younger people because Instagram... is where most of their young people are, but even that's not as popular as like TikTok anymore.
It's children that are literally being programmed by trillion-dollar companies to be okay with this.
We have a story about that later.
Yeah, you definitely want kids. I mean, Facebook's got old people now. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get kids in early and make it so immersive that they don't want to be in reality. That's dark.
But their product sucks.
The really dark future of Facebook is probably old people getting, extra money for their medicine, doing content moderation.
Or they're watching their grandkids in the metaverse.
Nana went her whole life without ever smoking a cigarette or uttering a curse word, and now she watches people murder animals on Facebook so that she can get her blood pressure medicine.
It's our dark future. It's coming.
Well, one thing about charging 50% commission in Mr. Zuckerberg's world is that very recently he handed out some criticism for something very, very similar. And those people, unsurprisingly, are pointing out that hypocrisy.
Apple's responded to Meta's plan to take a nearly 50% commission for digital asset purchases made inside the metaverse after complaining about fees from the App Store, causing the decision hypocritical. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Tim Cook in the back of his mind is also thinking, wow, we should have charged extra if you use an iPhone.
I knew we should have done 45. But, I mean, Tim Cook, when he sees it, he doesn't say to himself, oh, that's bad, I should stop. He says to himself, yeah, we should all be doing that.
Yeah.
More of this.
How much will the people handle? Could we go 60, 70, 80%?
You got to think 50 is pushing it, right?
I would think, but
I don't know, though, because if it blows up, like, remember when the app stores, the early Wild West days of the app stores, where people would just put up Flappy Bird and become millionaires overnight?
Yeah.
Those people will pay 50%. Because it's 50% of a massive, massive number. Dark times. Maybe we'll all get lucky, and it won't be the metaverse that wins. Maybe it'll be like Blu-ray and HD DVD. Maybe Sony Metaverse, which we don't know the name of yet, will win instead.
Epic Games lands $2 billion as Sony bets on its metaverse. So Sony is saying, hey, Epic Games, we're going to use your stuff for ours.
You know who else is part of this deal that wasn't in Crunchbase News, the paywall alternative? And this is a big one. I don't understand how they have not already made a massive MMO platform. Lego is going to be a part of this.
oh.
I think I've heard rumors they've been working on that for years, turning their popular Lego games into multiplayer MMO, or at the very minimum multiplayer in some way.
Imagine, and it could be low poly, right? It could be Minecraft style.
Well, they were doing some stuff with Nintendo, I heard, and they got off to false starts because Nintendo was saying you can't control the content, and they're trying to figure out the multiplayer model using things like Animal Crossing to try to have that kind of thing for the Lego world.
See, I think they're trying too hard. I think you just turn people loose in that sandbox and see what happens.
Then you end up with very dark things.
Remember,
Or
Lego,
you end up with, like our Minecraft server, which turned out pretty wholesome
Yeah,
overall. But that's also not, it's probably not a representation of the entire population.
it's a fringe group, and it's a fringe group that probably pushes out the normies
Yeah.
when they're part of it. But remember, I think Lego did do some kind of online thing, and yet it was the people kept building genitalia,
Yeah.
and they couldn't stop it. No matter how hard they tried, people would get around the algorithm. So maybe just let them have it. And the metaverse, of all, like, we don't know a lot of features that it has, right? You can meet with people with an avatar. You can maybe play a game or two. But other than that, you can own property, I guess.
It sounds like just VR chat with extra steps.
We kind of predicted this one.
Yeah, and so they're trying to think of new ways to add value. It's like, what can we offer people to make them join the metaverse? And this is, a horrific one.
Metaverse company to offer immortality through quote-unquote live forever mode. So basically, you feed an AI all of your stuff, all of your emails and all of your documents and everything you've ever written or said or posted or done anything online, and it creates an approximation of you that will live forever in the metaverse.
But you got to think, well, how is it going to do that? Well, the way it's going to do that, and listen, Facebook would never try to make money off of this.
Mm-hmm.
They're only going to store it for the purposes of your memorial. They're going to record every word you say, every move you make, everything you do while you're in the metaverse, and create some sort of horrific profile on you. and they say they have to do as much as possible to make it as accurate as possible after you're dead.
You can do the premium service, and they'll come scan your brain in after you die.
You know,
in hopes that future technology can reanimate that.
Yeah. Who was the one guy that had his head frozen? How's that working out for him?
It's not working out great.
Yeah.
No. But I think we actually probably do have the technology now to scan in your brain at just an obscene resolution. We can't reconstruct it or do anything with it yet, but if we can make a really, really good copy of your brain down to the molecular level, we might be able to reanimate that in the future.
Wouldn't you have to, like, pull it all apart?
Oh, yeah.
I think you might lose something there. You know what's going to happen when you live forever in the metaverse? You're going to be dead, and you're going to be living forever in the metaverse, and there's going to be somebody who hated you or loved you, and they're going to show up every week and grope you. Remember the groping problem?
Yeah.
Oh, it appears his virtual dead avatar thing left the 3 feet of personal space toggle turned on, and we can't get any closer.
Or what if, like, you're talking to it, and then all of a sudden it just leans forward and it's like, kill me.
Yeah.
Let me die.
Well, Krista, you're a big fan of the Facebook Marketplace.
Yes.
You've been looking for tables.
Yes. I found a decent one that
Now,
we might put an offer in on.
Well, that's good. We do need a table, but have you found any good leads on marmosets?
No, there's not actually a lot of animals, at least in our neck of the woods. I don't see animals on there very often.
Because how hard is it to get a dog or a cat around here?
Yeah, exactly.
Just walk outside, you're going to trip over one. Take it home, shampoo it, it's yours.
And if you list any other animal, the first question is, how does it taste?
Oh.
But an African gray parrot, you might get some money out of that.
Wildlife trafficking thrives on Facebook despite pledge to fight illegal trade.
Again, the algorithm is real excited about these posts, and it's like, ooh, we shouldn't do anything to curtail these kinds of things.
What ugly animals.
Yeah.
Is that green color? Because I know some animals have moss that grows in their hair. Which
Yeah, it
sounds
might be like
horrific.
algae or something if they're wet a lot.
Why would you want that?
I mean, they're cute, but I wouldn't want it in my house.
I remember I watched a video about the guy who had a tiger and a puma in a basement in Ukraine. I don't know what happened to him.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard any updates about whether he made it out or not.
I think he was in the south, so something had to happen.
The 45th Division, they've racked up a lot of kills now, and they have a taste for blood. They're going to have to be put down after the war, but it's going to make the most incredible, series.
Can you imagine if they turned those into like battle cats? That'd be fantastic. That'd probably just get killed almost immediately, right? Probably get killed by artillery. Well, social media, this is the social media section, in case you didn't notice, but so far, we've only talked about old social medias, the dinosaurs of social media. They're on their way out. There's a new king.
TikTok revenue set to surpass Twitter, Snap revenue combined. So,
Do people still use Snapchat?
yeah.
I guess, yeah.
TikTok is very addictive.
Have you been on it?
Very disorganized.
I won't download it.
I've never used TikTok, but when we posted our first YouTube short, I clicked on it, and it took me to that feed page.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't just view them individually. And I started scrolling, and about 5 minutes later, I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's the TikTok model. Yeah. YouTube's mimicking the TikTok model because it does keep you on there.
But presumably TikTok's even better at it, right?
Yeah.
Like their algorithm is even more addictive than...
Yeah, YouTube's algorithm's garbage. Source, trust me, bro.
So, yeah, it's one of those things where I don't want to be a part of it because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I know that my mind cannot fight it the way that I think it can. So you just have to...
You just can't click that tab. You just can't do it.
That's how I feel about opiates, too, which is why I'm in pain right now. And Twitter, this was April 7th. You got to wonder if some of this wasn't an emergency meeting, and they're like, okay, what can we offer to sort of, back away from the censorship? What can we give people that might cool this off a little bit? I don't think it'll work.
Twitter says that it is experimenting with quote-unquote unmentioning. You'll be able to remove yourself from a tweet thread that went off the rails. This actually is a thing that happens where somebody will ask something confusing and inflammatory and tag a bunch of people, and then somebody starts engaging with the troll, and then it's like, why do I have 300 notices?
Yes.
But
they'll tag like every tech tuber in a post about something.
I'll just be like, don't worry about that.
Yeah, just don't even.
That's the thing.
Answer.
If they add the edit button, though, that's going to get a million times worse because somebody's going to tweet something and then they're going to change it, and then the whole thread is going to be
confusing,
off the rails.
But if you can just unmention yourself, then it doesn't bother you. Like, it can go off the rails somewhere else for all I care.
What if I only look at Twitter like once a week?
Well, then obviously you're not using it the way it was intended to be used.
Clearly.
If you only use it once a week, it's deliberately awful so that you'll use it more.
Yeah, that is an astonishing user interface. It's terrible. Well, maybe if you hate Twitter and you're hearing about all these things and you say, I got to move to something else, go to WhatsApp. Although I guess WhatsApp is not a direct Twitter. It's more of a messenger, right?
Yeah.
I guess this would replace Facebook. But doesn't Facebook own WhatsApp?
I forget what all they own.
Well, whatever it is, they're adding new features.
WhatsApp to launch communities, more structured group chats with admin controls. This actually probably is something that should have been done a long time ago.
Oh, it is. It's meta. It's meta, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the biggest thing here. This is if you are the admin, you can have a huge voice chat that you control with this menu. I think in some ways they were trying to remember Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I think this was their Clubhouse, but now it's to the point where Clubhouse doesn't matter anymore because no one cared.
It is nice to have a record of like the posts and stuff that happened, and then the voice chat part can be a little bit more ephemeral. So whatever.
And Krista, we have had this conversation several times. Now you say, well, I think your age was like 16 to give your kid a phone, right?
Ideally.
We should say that you don't have a kid.
I don't have a kid. And they always say that the best parents are the people without children. So so I'm sure that might change in the future.
Yeah,
but
the people who looked around and were like, I'm going to subject somebody to this? I don't think so.
Things don't look great right now.
Yeah. And they didn't 20 years ago either. There's no excuse. But a lot of people agree with you. I cannot imagine how you would prevent that from happening. But I have heard from people say, no, my kid has no. But, they got to be seeing it somewhere, right?
My nieces and nephews don't have regular access to any sort of, like, they don't have social media at all.
Well, when you said that, I said that's insane. Because the average age has to be insanely low. It has to be ridiculously low. Because people are not, imagine how much your kid is going to scream to be like the other kids. Eventually you're going to give into it. I was not prepared for how low the number is.
Kids on social media, this is just like an academic paper where they talk about the percentages based on platform for each age group that they tracked.
3-year-olds, 25% of 3-year-olds.
On TikTok.
You can't read at 3, right?
It depends on the kid. If you're just being raised by TikTok, probably not. If you're being raised by a parent who's maybe working, you might be able to recognize some letters and stuff at that age and start knowing what sounds they make.
8 to 11, 34%. You start to be able to read around 5 or 6 probably.
Yeah.
13, it hits 80.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're done. 8 to 11 more likely to have TikTok and YouTube. Yeah, it all checks out with everything we know. We know where they are. But God,
that's so young.
3 years old.
I would be terrified to put a child that young on something like TikTok just because, like, you just don't know what's going to pop up in that feed. Who knows?
Imagine how crazy it's going to be when we can observe how a kid's TikTok feed changed between 3 and 13.
Oh, you know that they're selling that data.
Yeah. There's going to be some crazy data mining coming out of all that.
I'm trying to remember the first time that I dialed into a BBS. I think it was 4th grade. Maybe the summer between 3rd and 4th grade.
I didn't really start getting on the internet until I was like 5th or 6th grade.
There must not have been.
We didn't have a computer.
What was there, 1 at that point?
No, it was so it was connected to the public library. And so there was that one. But then the people at the public library, there was also the Kansas City Public Library, which had an 800 number. And so it was like, oh, this is magical.
The Kansas City Public Library, if you guys don't know about this, it was a BBS that had a gateway to the internet. And the average dials that you needed to get into that was probably like, what, 200?
It wasn't in 3rd grade, but it was very quickly a lot.
Yeah, I didn't get into it that early. I was probably like 12 by the time I did it. And literally, you would turn it on and go to sleep, and you would sleep through the... And when you heard that, your head would pop off the pillow and be like, oh, is it going to connect? And sometimes it wouldn't. That would be a real disappointment.
Yeah.
But we turned out fine. Maybe not.
I was definitely exposed to a lot of things before I was really ready for it, but it's probably okay.
Yeah. See, I think that's the way we should raise kids.
Yeah.
Let them know whatever it is. And you don't have to tell them the gory details. But hiding
That's
it
the
from
problem, though, is like on the internet, you're going to know the gory details. You're going to see it in, 4K.
But you're crazy if you think you can stop it by not buying them a phone.
Yeah. I mean, they might still be exposed to it, probably a lot less than if they're constantly scrolling 8 hours a day.
Yeah. It definitely helped my ability to read, which has only gone downhill since. So.
Yeah.
Your attention was stolen from you.
Learning to read at a very, very young age is like #1 parenting tip.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. It's like, oh, they can't possibly read that. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then we look at where we've come. Have you looked at the numbers out of Chicago?
I don't like the new math. The new math is wrong.
They have I don't remember the percentage, but like their high school graduates, some of them can't read. Like more than 10%.
It's crazy that they just pass people who can't read. Like just, it's fine.
What would you do if they were literally like shooting and dealing drugs in the classroom?
There wasn't any. I mean, you can't.
But there has to be an age where that wasn't happening. And it's like, it's at the elementary level when they're not passing their reading tests. And it's like, it's someone else's problem. Just get them through.
No, that's not true because those kids can't get arrested. So they're used a lot in the drug game. Because there's no risk to them, really.
Well, there's risks to them, but I guess,
their lives are being destroyed.
Yeah.
But they can continue to sell the drugs.
And that's what matters.
And not worry about the fact they can't read.
That's sad.
They might not be able to read, but they are hell on addition and subtraction. Amazing.
All right. We will see you guys soon.
Tomorrow.
Bye. Bye. Oh, I hit the mic. Sorry. Bye.